Hi, I'm Mike Papantonio. I'm delighted to have the owners of Caseworks here with me today. We've worked with Caseworks for years, and I can confidently say that they're a company with the highest integrity. They're leveraging data and technology. They're driving a level of results in the industry that's unmatched. And I wanted to spend some time talking about these folks because there's a really important issue out there right now. And I wanted to call the people I thought that could give us some of the answers. Susan, in Vegas, this last program, Michael Watts made a presentation and he said, we have problems in the industry. And I agree with Mike, we have problems in the industry. Obviously, y'all are not part of the problem. And so I wanted you on here today to talk about that in general, and then have you talk about the idea of how we can fix some of those problems, what we need to be as lawyers working with folks like you, professionals like you, who do it right. Well, first of all, as I was watching Michael, his presentation, I was afraid that it was going to start a little bit of a hysteria. And it kind of almost reminded me of that movie, The Crucible, where you got all the witch hunt taking place and everybody's just all freaked out and want to burn a bunch of witches. You walked out of there and you said, oh my God, this is terrifying. But it really isn't. It's all, what he was talking about, Michael was talking about, was just a handful of people. I mean, in the big picture, it's a handful of people. So I wanted to bring some people on, y'all. And I may even do this with a couple of other folks that do this right, and we can talk about their work product, and we know it's done right. But I'm afraid of something. I'm afraid that Michael and the presentation, not Michael, but the presentation might have scared everybody off to the fact that they're not, they're afraid to take on a new project.
Sure.
They're afraid to make a move on a new project because they think they might be exposed to a problem. So I called you, asked you to come in here today, and let's talk about this generally. First of all, talk about your business. I think that's important.
Well, thank you. First off, Pap, thank you so much for inviting Ken and I to come out and spend some time and talk about this. I love to talk about Caseworks. So maybe let's just start with something you just said, was what Michael was sharing, and I think there's a lot of truth. I mean, there are problems in this industry, and the problems that the firms are seeing, we are impacted negatively by those same issues.
Yeah, now explain that. A lot of the people that are in your business, this wasn't just about lawyers who are impacted and how lawyers need to be extra careful. Y'all do too, and so there's things that you do to protect your business. Well, and there's some of those same things can be used by lawyers, right?
Yeah, and I'll let Ken in a moment talk a little bit about the technology, but first thing, the law firms should consider us as a seamless extension to their team. So if it's impacting you, it's impacting us. One thing I just want to make sure that everyone is aware, we don't buy and sell leads. And so if a firm has partnered with lead acquisition groups that are bad players in the space, well, it's going to impact Caseworks and our ability to live out our mission of helping lawyers help people. We can't really help people if they become unresponsive. And I think Camp Lejeune really brought to light a lot of these issues.
Yeah. Ken, don't you think, lay out the issue that you see. What is the issue the salient issue that Michael presented out in Vegas that says, you know what, he might not have gotten it 100% right, but he's raised some issues that we sure better take. How do you see the issue?
Yeah, I see, there's this myth that we talk about at Caseworks where I call it the mass tort funnel myth, where firms in general they look at getting leads as valuable. So the more leads they get, the more value there is. But if you don't have a good process in place where you can look at those leads and stay connected to those leads, then lots of things go wrong in that process. So what we try to do at Caseworks is we use technology-enabled solutions to help deliver better service. And at the end of the day, like Susan said, we are all about on a mission, right? Everybody that wakes up at Caseworks, we do it because we want to see people get justice for what's happened to them. And so part of what we do when we get leads in is we have a systematic process where the leads come in, if they're converted or not, and then we put them through a quality assurance check. And one of the things that we were doing back in the early days of Camp Lejeune is we would review every document, we would review what they were saying as part of intake, and then when we engage them, then we would dive deeper into that and we would uncover problems and basically mismatches.
Yeah, I want the viewers to understand this is not a casework promo. This I have you on here because I think you do it right, okay? And so having said that, what are some things that you see in the business that really Michael might have hit on that you're seeing firsthand? That, yeah, you've checked things out. You have a system, a checklist of things that you do. What are some irregularities that you're seeing from these folks that are just popping up out of everywhere, mostly Wall Street money? People that have never had any experience, zero experience in any aspect of the law, are all of a sudden case acquisition people. And they're killing us. They are killing us.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you see, Susan?
Well, there's two linchpins to our business, and it's similar concerns that your firm will have, and that is quality leads and then the ability to obtain medical records. And so if you have poor quality leads coming in, you're never going to be able to go obtain medical records, or I really like to talk about the data that is required to be able to move that case through the case development pipeline to a compensable state where you've got both proof of use or product ID and proof of injury. And so those are the linchpins to our business.
Yeah, you want to see, well, here's what I'm hearing. I mean, not just talking to y'all. Organizations like yours are finding actually phonied up medical records, okay? And how does a lawyer even know phonied up medical records are coming in? Or they're finding people that don't really even exist. They're created out of the ether. Made up names where the company is selling that lead 5 or 6 times. And I know you've run into
synthetic leads.
Okay, talk about it, because people don't understand when you get into this business, that's a hell of a risk.
Yes.
Sure.
If you're signing up people that don't even exist and you're basing it on medical records, look, this is the people doing this are criminals. Okay, they're criminals. You're dealing with criminals. So that's where you have to start the discussion. But that criminality bleeds itself down to your practice, right?
Yes. And so what we're doing, and I think is anybody can do, but we have what we call a patient enrichment process where we are connected to large databases that basically cover nearly 100% of all adults in the U.S. And what we're doing is we're pulling 25 years worth of address history, all their relatives and associates and all their phone numbers and all their emails, plus verifying their social security number. So we've got a rich data set that we can then interrogate and look to see if this person is real or not. Because if you start putting in basic data sets and you don't get that rich history, then you're going to suspect there's something wrong.
Here's the problem. There are so few companies that anybody watching this could call that do what you do. Because in effect, you are the last. You're a line in the sand.
Sure.
You see, you're working a case. What you have to assemble is data. You have to assemble medical records. You have to assemble exposure time. All of this stuff you have to assemble.
And keep the clients engaged throughout the entire process.
Right. And so if you have a lawyer that says, "Wow, I'm just going to go out and get 20,000 of these cases and hope for the best," how dangerous is that?
Yeah, that's super dangerous, and we definitely have seen some of that. One of the things I also wanted to mention, and to speak to your fraudulent medical records. Again, we've developed this, and we've got a client that we're working with on Roundup, and we're getting Roundup records in 3 days. So if we automate the whole front-end process, and we're putting it out to a nationwide EHR network, and we can get records back in 3 days. So, I mean, if clients are giving you their own records, then yeah, you could get something that's fraudulent. But if you're going out and hitting the nation's EHR network, you're not getting fraudulent records.
I wanted to speak on that too, because can you imagine if the lead acquisition groups sent over cases or new leads to Caseworks, and then we immediately got the people on the phone, we verify the information, and then we go ping these EHR systems. I mean, if we're getting records back, I mean, we're being optimistic. Roundup, we're seeing within 3 days. It's very quickly to determine is that a legitimate lead or not, and is there medical records that are going to substantiate the claim that came through on the intake process. So I think.
Well, okay. So I guess what I'm saying is there need to be more companies. I mean, this is, again, I'm not selling your company. We work with you, we like you, we're happy with you. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the idea out that these lawyers that they mean well. They want to do this right. And all of a sudden, this doesn't mean this could be 2,000 cases. It doesn't have to be 20,000 cases. We get yourself in this kind of problem. But at the end of the day, isn't there a need for people to do more of what you're doing? In other words, if you say, Pap, I checked out the medical records, they're good. I know the exposure issue, it's good. I have interaction with the client, it's good. That's such a valuable thing. And I don't know, there just needs to be more companies doing it. When you set out to do this, this thing we're talking about wasn't the problem, was it? I mean, you didn't hear about, completely fraudulent enterprises of people that have criminal records that already should be in prison for fraud, that are out there selling leads, and they might be selling leads, for example, to to a co-counsel I work with.
Sure.
Okay, and the co-counsel says, Pap, handle this case. Well, okay. Well, that co-counsel is part of the problem if they don't look into that. And in effect, the last person handling the case has the same problem. You're kind of a go-between in there, aren't you?
I mean.
And there are. I don't know if other companies they're doing this. That's why I want to spend some time.
Well, I think it's important to go back to the beginning in 2015 of CaseWorks. I mean, we are a company founded on medical reviews, although we do it a lot different today. But we did manual medical reviews in 2015, and I had a vision of being able to offer a solution that was able to handle the entire plaintiff journey from the point at which closing the lead or it's already been has a signed retainer and working that case up through the full case development pipeline to whether it's filing the cases. And part of that is I've wanted to be able to have what we're talking about, the rapid record solution. One, being able to get the records back quickly to authenticate the lead, and then second would be able to ingest the records and to review on the AI. But I think one thing is important. You mentioned that there needs to be more companies like this. I think at the heart of who we are, one of our tenets is partnership. And we were talking before, Pap, about a partnership, and another tenet is transparency, and I think those go hand in hand. If we back up a year ago, the rapid record solution was on a roadmap, but we quickly put a lot of time and resources because of what we were seeing with Camp Lejeune. So about a year ago, we started to see leads coming over, and we were getting some emails by some of our team members saying, can you go listen to these calls? And so at first it was like, well, to Ken's point, the client was saying that they couldn't remember things from intake until we got them on the phone.
Okay, now let's spend some time, because you actually called people's attention to this. You sent recordings, and I mean, you actually said, you need to listen to this recording, the person you're working with. The person that's paying you to do this, you send that recording to that lawyer and say, really? We asked them what their girlfriend's name was and they couldn't remember. We asked them when they were injured and they couldn't remember.
No, they even said worse, Pap. They said, you told me to say I had liver cancer.
Oh my God.
So that's where we've heard about coach clients, but that really about a year ago is when we started to say, hey, there's a real problem here. And it happened to be, of course, we keep track of all the lead acquisition groups, a couple of players. And so we started to raise the red flag. And I think that's what a real partner is, and being able to show the transparency.
In other words, when you're dealing, and again, I just wish there were more companies that are doing this, because we would hire them left and right. I mean, there's lawyers out there that if you're operating in this space right now and you don't have a casework kind of organization with you, man, you're up there on the high wire without a net. Okay.
Well, you're certainly not going to get the same ROI.
Well, exactly. No, you're not. But the point being is that sometimes you just have to say those profits really are not that. They're not so important that I'm going to jeopardize my law firm because you got some criminal out there that's making stuff up, and oh, by the way, selling it 5 or 6 times to 5 or 6.
That's
Talk about the real problem. In Camp Lejeune, we called this one client, patient or whatever you want to call it, claimant of one of our clients, and they said, "Why are you calling me so much?" And the person happened to have written down every single phone number, and she had gotten calls from 9 different people calling her about her Camp Lejeune claim, and none of them were ours.
Okay, so that's criminal. Okay, the people that got burned in that should be suing wherever it came from. They ought to be reporting it to criminal authorities. It's criminal. It's fraud. And for some reason, when we're operating this space, people just think, well, this is that's not normal. Hell, I've been doing this for 40 years. This abnormality has just happened in the last 4 years. We've had Wall Street saying, hey, this is a big money maker for us. It's the same thing. I want you to think about this. You used to know, well, maybe not. You're not as old as me. But when I was growing up, there were what we call doctor-run hospitals. Okay, 10 doctors would own a hospital, right? And they were making a good profit. So Wall Street came in and said, well, you know, hell, we want to be in this business. So they started buying up all the doctor businesses, right? And then all of a sudden, what you had is Wall Street making decisions about whether you could have your appendix taken out.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That's what they're trying to do here. And they're starting with bottom feeders. They're absolutely starting with bottom feeders by saying to some cat that doesn't have anything to do with the law, hey, you can move into this space. We want to give you $10 million. You go out and get leads. Well, okay.
Right.
Well, they make them up. And then they sell them 6 times. And it's fraudulent medical information. It's fraudulent contact information. All of it is. And so here we're kind of at this pace. We're at this place right now, Susan. It is lawyers justifiably are afraid to jump in big numbers right now. I mean, I'm talking about big numbers, 2,000 cases.
Sure.
You know, the idea of 40,000 cases is absurd. Anybody doing that, you know, you kind of run the risk.
Right.
20,000 cases, you kind of run the risk, right? You say, I'm going to accept that risk, which is insane. It's absolutely insane.
Right.
And so not to have a go-between like you're talking about that y'all do, and I've been, like I said, I just don't know other companies that do this. I don't know that when you say, Pap, we've looked at your 2,000 cases, we've verified the medical records, we verified that this is a real person, we verified it hadn't been sold 10 times, we verified all this stuff. The value of that is, you know what we have to do in-house now? We hire ex-FBI agents. Yeah, we're hiring ex-FBI agents and ex-law enforcement people to do audits on our file by file.
Wow.
Well, you know, you would change when I'm listening to what you're saying, and it makes me think about if you change the way that some of the lead acquisition groups were financially incentivized or paid, it might change the behavior.
What do you mean?
Well, like for instance, Caseworks, we are incentivized. We bill based on the work we've done and the milestones that we're getting to. So if we don't achieve work and we don't get records, well, we're not getting paid. So we're more in alignment with the law firm.
But you're doing more than just getting records.
Sure.
You're looking at the records and you say, this is bullshit.
Well, yeah.
You know,
this
is a fantasy case.
Right.
I mean, right? And then, I mean, you're giving that lawyer assurance that, and I'm not trying to create competition for you, because I think y'all do a good job, but there need to be more companies doing that.
Sure.
It's an exceptional process.
Yeah.
I think the industry is ripe for some kind of standardization, and whether that's like a national lead registration database, or it could be a bigger guarantee that like Susan said, I think the lead generators, they do a great job and all that, but they kind of provide the lead, and then they kind of go about their merry way when the lawyers and people like us are left to try to push the case to compensability.
Well, I would say, there's some great groups that we've worked with,
for sure.
and they are not afraid to be part of the solution. And what I mean by that is not
When you say groups, what are you talking about? You talking about
lead acquisition groups?
Okay.
Yeah. So let's say we come into a firm that has maybe acquired a couple thousand cases, and they've kind of set stagnant for a little bit, and so they haven't been reaching out to those plaintiffs, and so naturally they're going to become unresponsive. And so some of the groups we worked with have really partnered with us to get these clients back on the phone, warm transfer them over to us so that we can revive and continue the process. And so I do think there's some really great groups, and we've certainly partnered with them and have seen great success.
You know who the frauds are. You already from the face of the case. Somebody says, you say, Pap, okay, I want to work with you. You're going to know if I've got an acquisition person that you've already seen is kind of hinky.
Well, I love when attorneys say, who would you recommend? And we don't recommend because we like someone, we look at the data. Like how over the 9 years we've been doing this, of those groups, who has sent cases that are responsive and they've gotten across.
Transparent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Going back to being transparent. And so and just have a good partnership with them. I think there's a success formula that's required. Again, we don't buy and sell leads, so we need a good partner to work with the law firm to get the right leads and send them to us and let us work them up.
Let's do this. Susan and Ken, I really want y'all to be prepared in Vegas. You're going to have a lot of questions. We're going to have time to be thinking about what it is that how do you even prove what you're doing? And how do you help lawyers say, my license matters to me, I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to be sucked into something by some criminal that has me now on the hook, okay? So let's talk about those things in Vegas and make this a little more vibrant discussion with a bunch of people in a room, okay?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.